Hey guys, we know many of you have been through a situation like this. You have to reach a destination on a short notice or planning for a cross-country holiday trip, and airlines charging huge amount of fares. It's normal, that happens these days. So today we are checking on things like when to buy and how to buy your airline tickets to get the good price for your next trip. Airlines make money by anticipating our buying habits. It's a complicated process, but you can save money when buying airline tickets. Travel agencies can also help you save money when flying by knowing insider secrets you can use to your advantage. Economist Makoto has a formula designed to calculate the best time to buy an airline ticket, if you're looking for the lowest prices. According to his formula, best time to book ticket is 8 weeks before your flight. According to a study by Airlines Reporting Corporation, company that handles ticketing transactions between the nation's airlines and travel agents, finds that passengers pay the lower if they buy 6 weeks before their flight. If you're not flexible enough to book right at the 8-week point, consider signing up for fare alerts offered by practically every travel site, like travel3.com. Yata.com, another price tracking service, alerts travelers when the price of their plane tickets drop after purchase, allowing travelers to request an airline voucher for the price difference. Sometimes airline companies announce cheapest seats about 4 months before departure for domestic and 5 months before for international. Here are some more facts. Sometimes the fare raise up to 3 times the price in a day. Do you know? Sunday is the most expensive day to fly. Prices rise quickly the week of the flight, and you will pay on average 40% more for a ticket the day of. Most discount ticket sales are offered early in the week. Don't make it in the plane. Aim for below the average price, and you'll usually win. Buy tickets on Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday. Try to fly on Tuesday, Wednesday or Saturday for a better priced ticket. If this has helped you, we would consider it as a privilege, and we will be thankful if you consider sharing this video for your friends and community. Who knows, if it would help someone else who is in need. Go check some wonderful stuff out there in our channel. And if this is your first time here, we would love to have you subscribe. See you in the comments. Let's connect with suggested by you.
That's actually just the fun part, right? The hard part is finding the money to do so. So let's talk about what those numbers look like. I'm going to share 2 examples of other bloggers who've talked about this, and then I'm going to share some of my real expenses so that you can start saving for your own adventure. Okay, let's start at the big question here. How much money am I going to need to travel the world? Well, the answer is relatively simple. It's probably not as much money as you think. So to illustrate this, let's start with some of the extremes. I recently heard a quote from an inspiration of mine, Chris Gilbo. He said that when he went to his first 100 countries, it cost him $30,000. And at first I was like, holy crap, $30,000, that's a lot of money. And then I thought about it. Well, $30,000 got him to 100 countries, so that's $300 per country. And I was like, well, that actually is really, really cheap. In fact, it costs me more when I travel, so what am I doing wrong? It's important to note that with Chris, he's traveled to every single country in the world, and I mean that honestly, not like hyperbole. He hit Norway, which is his 293rd country. He travels super light and with lots and lots of travel hacking and all these kinds of things. So, but that doesn't take into account cost of living and food and all these kind of other things. So I use that as a rough gauge, but then use other examples in my own personal experiences to get something a little bit more realistic. So what are you supposed to do if you're not a crazy experienced traveler? Well, let's look at Alex McCaw. He just finished a around-the-world trip. He went to 17 countries and he spent a year traveling. If you're curious, he supported himself by writing a book for O'Reilly about programming. He said they spent $22,000 to do this. Now, $22,000 is a lot, but not when you spend it over the year to and easier to attain. I know from personal experience, I spend more than $22,000 to be at home in Seattle over the course of a year, right? So this gives you a little bit more insight. So let's use that and then combine it with the number from Chris, and then I'll share some of my own experiences and what that's looked like. Now, when I first started traveling, I went to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I went and lived there for 6 months. Now, BA is kind of a different place because, say, 5 years ago, it actually used to be very, very cheap for expats, for people living there. And from what I understand, the locals who do live there now, it is generally relatively inexpensive. It's still a developing country. But for expats, it's going to cost you a lot more. You got to pay for hotels. You got to pay for like the not local rate for food and all these different things. So when I was there for 6 months, it cost me $15,000. Now, that also included a bunch of different bucket list items: Easter Island, Carnival in Rio, the Panama Canal, a bunch of different ones. So the money that I actually spent there was close to about 10K for the 6 months. But keep in mind that 15K number. My next big trip was Barcelona, Spain, which is of course in Europe, which is a much more expensive place. I think I did about 6 or 7 different countries and major events up there. But I was only able to spend half the amount of time, one, due to money constraints, and two, because of visas. They only let Americans be there for about 3 months at any given time. Now, I'm intentionally going to keep these numbers bigger than they probably should be. The reason I'm doing this is because as a traveler, one, you got to pay higher expenses for things, and two, there's just a lot of unknowns. I've found that you run into lots of things, visas, just like crazy Eastern countries, but generally speaking, I try to prepare $4,500 US for a month in Europe. And of course, this will go down the longer that you're there, but this is kind of my range, $4,500 US. That's a little bit pricey. So let's talk about South America. Clearly, it's cheaper to live in South America. I mean, there's an exception in Buenos Aires and, say, Rio and maybe a couple other major cities, but generally speaking, it's cheaper to live in South America than it is in Europe. So for this continent, I save $2,500 per month of travel. Now, again, this goes down as you stay there longer, but I've felt very comfortable and lived quite well and actually eaten really, really well off of $2,500 a month in South America. Let's say you want to go a little cheaper. Hell, entire countries that are going to be quite reasonable. So for Southeast Asia, I am saving about $1,750 per month. So $1,750 US per month as my cost of living for travel and lodging and food and everything else that comes up. So those are the actual numbers that I've had to spend as I've been traveling, but I know there's a lot of variations. You could travel more luxuriously and you could probably travel a lot cheaper as well. And also, I mean, just to be fair, I'm not covering a lot of really cool places like India, Africa, what all of you know. Let me hear your insights. So if you have if you want to talk any of the money, although I know that'd be kind of awkward, or if you want to just give me some ranges, I'd love to learn from you by having you share your insights in the comments below.